It's important for us that we do record, because we want these sorts of sessions and the conversations that come up and the information that's shared to be shared as wide as possible. Listen, I know everybody can't make a Tuesday evening or any evening really. There's lots going on for people. So this needs to be accessible, and it needs to be something that we get out as wide as we possibly can. So just to take you through a bit of the agenda tonight, one of the main benefits of these, and one of the big things that I like to focus on when we do this, is they are collaborative. These aren't just NGB talking at people. It's really important that's not the case. I will, however, completely contradict myself for this evening. Apologies. We've got a lot of information that we want to get out there and we want to share with you all. So this will be a lot of us talking at you. However, you'll notice as we go through what we've got lined up, a lot of the next and the follow-up and the next steps that we'll share involves hearing from you, engaging, understanding what those challenges are. So these will be collaborative moving forward. We want to hear from you about what you want to see and what you want to do. There will be things that we will take as the NGB and we'll say, this is what we need to share, and these are the elements that we want to prioritise. At the same time, as a membership organisation, it's massively important that we get your input, and we'll do that through these sessions, through the engagement surveys, which we'll be doing regularly. We'll make sure we play back that feedback to you as well, so you know that not only have we listened, but we've actioned appropriately as well. I'll talk a little bit more in a second just about the purpose and intent, although probably true to form, I've covered that off already in my spiel now. In Roy's absence, I'll hand over to Dave. Dave's going to take us through a bit about us as an NGB. Who are we? What do we do? Who's in the organisation? A lot about our priorities as well, and also what that squash landscape looks like at the moment. So much has changed. COVID particularly made a big difference. It will continue to play a big part in what we do. But ultimately, we want to make sure that you're all clear on our roles and responsibilities and the resources that are available to us. And similarly, we want to work with you to maximise that. Dave will hand over to Nick then. Nick Edwards very kindly has come in to talk about League Squash. A little bit of an update on where we are, what's happening, rule changes, amendments, and understanding what some of those opportunities are in the future. Tom Rosser then will come in and talk about his work. Tom and I are both new to the organisation, and Tom's been out in the field already. I think literally out in the field today. Tom up in mid Wales, working with some schools. Hopefully there's a new club going to be started up there. So Tom's done some great work. He'll share that with you. Greg will then come in and talk about performance side of things, give an update on what's happening. And there's an incredible amount going on already, which is incredible. I'm looking forward to hearing Greg share that with you. I'll then be in again, so you do get a bit of a break from me. Not much though. I'll just talk a little bit about my plans, my thoughts, and where I'm going to need help, because we can't do all of this on our own. It's important that, as I say, this is collaborative. Then Russell will talk about the membership side of things. Some great opportunities, benefits, and I really want us to be in a place that we can maximise the offer for you as members. So you're getting the most out of it you possibly can. And that's really important to us. And then I'll just wrap up then the session with next steps. When's the next session? What does that agenda look like? And we'll take any questions that you've got. If you've got any questions throughout, please do just pop them in the chat box. We'll be pretty good. We've got a plan of how we can make sure we pick them all up. But if for any reason we don't, as we are recording it, we save all the text as well. So we'll make sure that we get those answered to you in due course. So really quickly, again, a little bit more, again, as I do, you always make your notes for these sorts of sessions, and you put it all in a very structured and formatted way. And then you talk about stuff that you were going to talk about at a different time earlier on in the session. So members are the lifeblood. It is as simple as that. I'm a member of a rugby club, golf club, tennis club. That's my background. I know how volunteers work. I'm a volunteer myself. The time and effort that goes in. I think ultimately it's important that we spend time with people. I mean, people are a huge passion of mine, and a personal value is about being curious. I want to know about the Richards, your clubs, what's your background? Alex, I'm going over to St. Mellons tomorrow. Jeff, I want to hear about, what motivates you to play the game, what frustrates you. I want to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is where we want these sessions to play a role as well, because everything isn't rosy. It's as simple as that. At the same time, there are limitations on what everybody can do, what's realistic, and what we all need to be doing is pulling in that same direction. That's where that kind, consistent communication comes in. For me, I'd love to be able to do everything. It's taken a few years, but I'm getting better at saying no, sadly. But what I do like to do is try and find a way forward. I know that the team, I picked up so much from the team already about what we can do, and it's pretty incredible. And my job here is to work with you guys as clubs and to share it a lot more, and to start understanding back from you what that looks like. And finally, these are going to be collaborative. They have to be. Again, I'll make my last apology of the evening around these will be an information download tonight, but moving forward, they've got to be fun. We've got to enjoy being here on a Tuesday night, because I'm sure people could be on court, which is ultimately what we want to be doing. But we need to make sure you're getting as much out of it as possible. We're sharing the information with you in a way that works, in a way that you can then share to fellow members. Excuse me, apologies. And whilst, again, we won't be able to answer every question on the night, but what we will be doing is creating an FAQ from each of the sessions that will just be a rolling document. And then we can add to that, and we can share that through the website, through the emails, and again, through YouTube when we set this recording up. The other thing for me that's just really important is I'm Pan Wales. My role is Pan Wales. In any of the NGBs I've worked in, the 4 previous ones, my roles have been Pan Wales, so I can't think any other way, as much as I perhaps tried. So everything we do is with a Welsh focus. We need to make sure that everybody in the country is being represented. Sometimes it's easier than others. At the same time, it's really, really, really important to me that everyone appreciates that is our intention, and that is absolutely what we're aiming for. So on that note, I'll give everyone a break from listening to me waffle on, and I'll hand over to Dave Evans. Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Simon. Like Simon said, he's probably covered quite a bit of the first slide that I'll present to you. Obviously, sorry you've got to put up with me tonight, because Roy would have been delivering this, but he's sipping pina coladas in Gran Canaria, lucky thing. But basically, a lot of you would know a lot of the information, but it's just sort of just a recap for some of you that don't really. But who we are. Everyone thinks we're sort of some multi-million-pound organization, but we're a very small, hard-working team with only 7 staff. Only 2 of those are full-time staff as well. So it's a mixture of part-time and full-time staff. They all work incredibly hard, and like Simon said, what we deliver as much as we can in all facets and all areas, but obviously there are limitations with a small team like this of what we can deliver. But as we said, Roy Gingell is the operations manager. I won't read all the slides, but part-time. Myself, Dave Evans, I'm the performance director. Again, I'm part-time. We've got Russell Edwards, who's on the call, the business and office manager, who's full-time. And Greg Tippins, a lot of you know Greg, is the full-time junior national coach. And obviously Simon, who's brought this together this evening, and Tom, are 2 new members to the team, sort of started just prior to Christmas, really. Sort of club and community officer, and the schools community officer. But Tom and Simon, obviously, you hear a lot more from them as the night goes on. And lastly, on the call, there's a lot of people would have dealings with Nick Edwards, who is the league manager. And like I say, a lot of these roles are part-time, but bordering on full-time. I'm sure Nick could testify to that. But that's a quick introduction of who we are, and the small team, and what each role, what clarity of the roles that each of us do. Right, what the Squash Wales do? Squash Wales are primarily funded by Sport Wales, and sort of we run the program, and sort of we're the guardians of that through Sport Wales. It was a limited company since 2006. and we currently have volunteer directors on the board. There are currently some vacancies on the board, and what they do with the board, it changed about 4 or 5 years ago, where we say volunteers on the board. Each board member has a specialist subject that they can help on, whether that's legal, HR, marketing, all different sort of facets that they can help on the board and help the team with their business skills and from their experience, which is a great help, because I know many years ago, when we had the board, it was more just people who were keen on squash, volunteers, but no sort of specialist skills that they could actually help the team. So this is excellent for the Squash Wales moving forward. The board meet quarterly, and the daily operations, as I said earlier, down to the 7 members of staff. But like I say, we report to the board, and any help or specialist areas that we need guidance or help on, the board will then sort of help us in those areas, each different board member. Go on to the next one, please, Simon. Again, I don't want to get into too much detail and sort of bore you with too much sort of talk, but Squash Wales strategy 2020 to 2025, it's on the website. I know we can provide, or Simon, we can always send the links out to people so they can read it in their own time. There's lots of different strands in the strategy. The strategy came from an engagement session years ago with the members, and the strategy was then formed by the board on the results of the engagement sessions. There are various different strands on the strategy. Pretty much, so a lot of it was interrupted with COVID and sort of all the stop starts that we've been having. But without sort of going into too much detail, you can see the different areas there. So health and well-being, that Squash Wales will provide opportunities lifelong for all its members, provide a player pathway, equality, diversity, membership, and maintain the highest standards of governance. So, like I said, I'm more than happy we can talk about, sort of the strands of this, but I don't want to really go into too much detail on an evening like this, where it's more about sort of listening to what you guys want, and sort of, the issues and the problems, around that. So if anyone wants the sort of strategy, we can provide the links, and, obviously read that at your own bedtime reading in your leisure then. Where we are at the moment, the current landscape. We've got 97 facilities across whole of Wales. As you can see, primarily, 85% or a lot of our facilities are sort of leisure centre based local authorities, which provides challenges in itself, in that you have to deal with 22 different local authorities, because they've all got their own sort of strategies and agendas. So it's not all as straightforward that one size fits all. We have 207 courts in Wales, and again, jumping off the gun, I know Greg will talk about performance, but it shows how well we do in Wales, considering we only have 207 squash courts, in the type of results that we provide league players internationally, that we're still punching well above our weight considering the courts. Without going into too much, there's probably more courts in London than there is in the whole of Wales. So it just gives you an idea and a flavour of what we're up against, really. The current membership is with 1,300 members, all different sort of coaches, referees, players. Obviously, we want to grow that. We want to sort of offer better, added value to our members. So that's an area that we're looking at, which is part of the strategy. We did the new membership system, which again, with the COVID, hasn't helped. Now, if we have a little bit of a run, it can help us make that a little bit easier for everyone. And I don't want to talk too much, I know Nick will chat later, but we have 47 league clubs with 125 league teams playing in different leagues throughout Wales. So as you can see, we haven't got a huge amount of facilities, but what the facilities we do have, we want to make sure they're at the highest possible standard, and we can get more people playing in those facilities, which will help us and the local authorities keep the courts open as well. So it's a two-way thing there. Like I said, there's a short whistle stop tour for myself. If there's any questions, obviously, please feel free to put them in the chat box or at the end. I'll pass it back to you now, Simon.
Thanks, Dave. That's great. Thanks. I really appreciate you stepping in for Roy on that. Again, just before I hand over to Nick to talk about leagues, I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things there that Dave mentioned. These evenings are almost sort of the high level helicopter stuff, and we can pick up those conversations separately around the intricacies on strategy and various ways forward. So there's always going to be that open dialogue, which is really important. And again, they talked about facilities. Listen, we all know the vulnerability of leisure facilities at the moment, and in particular squash courts. So we're going to be doing these sorts of sessions with our local authority partners as well. So get them all in one place and help to understand what role we can play as an NGB in working with them to protect these courts for you and for our sport. So that's another commitment we're looking at in the future. Right, Nick.
Okay, thank you, Simon.
Thank you
very much. Thank you, Simon. Good evening, everybody. I'm sure you all know who I am, but I'm Nick Edwards, the league manager. Just like to give you a quick update on where we are with league squash and where we are going in the future. As you know, my job is basically to ensure fair and consistent squash is played throughout all of Wales. And to help me do that, we have the league constitution and rules. This has been built up over the last number of years, and it's basically there just to guide how the leagues should and could be run. There has been some feedback recently that some of these rules have become maybe too complex, maybe the requirements have now changed, and are there sufficient differences between, let's say, Premier and feeder leagues and some of the lower leagues where it's sometimes called social squash. These are all very fair points, and this is why we're looking at the league constitution rules by putting together a league constitution rules working party. The fundamental questions we'll be asking are, when looking at the rules, what is that rule actually trying to achieve and why is it there? Secondly, what would be the consequence if that rule wasn't there? Would there be desired consequences or unforeseen consequences? And is there a better way of achieving the same outcome that rule isn't currently handling? So what the league constitutional rules working party will look at is to look at those, basically all the rules, and fundamentally hold up a mirror to that to see if they are actually achieving what we need them to achieve. The overall aim of this group is to come up with a set of rules basically designed by the players, for the players, and to be executed on behalf of the players by myself. It needs to be a set of rules that all clubs can buy into, and any changes this group come up with, when analysed, if this decided is the right way to go, we have to look at what those consequences will be, and any changes will need to be voted and adopted by all members at an AGM. This isn't going to happen behind the scenes. Everybody will be involved in this and know what those likely changes are going to be. The League Working Party will actually kick off after the spring leagues, which go live next week. I'll talk about that in a moment. But all members will be involved in this, as I say, through the AGM. The actual party itself is made up predominantly of the League Committee at the moment, plus a number of other representatives from other clubs. So as I say, that League Working Party will be kicking off in the next couple of weeks. But first of all, of course, we have to get the spring leagues up and running, which, as you know, start next Monday. Everything's in place. League Master is ready with the fixtures in place, so all courts should now be booked. And the ranking list should have been with me by yesterday. Still waiting for one or two to come in, but by the end of this week, all the ranking lists will also be up to date, ready for the launch of the spring leagues on Monday. As you've heard earlier, we have 125 teams, which is good in this day and age because we had a lot of players drop out because of COVID. People are coming back gradually, and those teams are now going from strength to strength. The fixtures, as I say, have been announced. They are available in League Master, so please make sure you've got those in your diaries. And the ranking list, as I say, will be finished by the end of this week. So all being good, we will have the leagues up and running for Monday, the 16th of January. And I wish everybody the best with the spring leagues. Thanks very much. Back to you, Simon.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. For some reason, I can't see the chat box on my screen. So Russ, I'm going to just keep looking at you, and you shout if there's any questions in there. I'd appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not quite sure what I've done there. Nick, thanks so much for that. I think I'm going to talk a little bit more in the club and community section about the engagement survey that's out there, and thank you to those that have already submitted a response. Leagues comes up a bit, and I know Nick's done an incredible amount, as well as the team he works with, on making sure that you're listened to, those challenges are heard. That's part of this process now, is to work out what's the best thing for league squash across Wales. So the big thing for me that Nick said there was around the visibility and having these conversations out openly in public, AGM, and making sure that everybody's part of that process. Next, I'll hand over to Tom Rosser, who'll talk us through all his fantastic work so far.
Okay, cheers, Simon. Yeah, so I'm Tom. For those who don't know me, I play squash at Swansea. I've been playing since I was junior, and I've been involved with coaching since I was about 16. I'm the new schools and further and higher educational community officer. My role involves increasing junior participation by building relationships with schools and local authorities. Now, the first couple of months started in November, same as Simon. The first few months, I've been information gathering. I've been looking at previous data, previous work from regional development officers. I've been looking at the school sports survey that forms a lot of the funding guidelines for Sport Wales. And I've also been getting in touch with as many coaches as possible. Some of you on this call I've already been in touch with, just trying to get a lay of the land of the junior coaching, because my thinking is it seems a little redundant to go in and do such good school work as we have been doing. We've got a successful school program, but if we don't have the exit routes to the courts, we don't have the coaching on the courts, then it's a waste of resource just going into the schools. So that's where this workforce comes into it. We can only have the coaching on the courts if we've got a big enough workforce. Now, I completely appreciate that the majority of our coaches either work part-time as a coach or in their spare time. So I've been trying to get a lay of the land of who's available, who are my available coaches to go into the schools, and who are available to put on the coaching in the clubs on the courts. So the information that I've gathered so far, what have I learned? So unfortunately, okay, the stark reality is a lot of clubs don't actually have any junior coaching. It's a shame, obviously. We really want more juniors on court, but as soon as we recognize that that is the state of it, we can move forward. However, there is a lot of positives. There are a lot of clubs that have got, I put some numbers in there, up to 10 juniors involved. I haven't spoken to all clubs, so take this with a pinch of salt. There are some clubs that are, building and have a lot of potential. And then there are certainly a handful of clubs that are thriving. Okay, very self-sufficient, got plus 15 juniors, and they're working really well. And they are a focal point for us. I'm trying to learn from them what's working well, how we can then apply their strategies to the rest of the clubs within Wales. Now, something that I did find through my research over the last couple of months, which is a bit of a shame, is out of all our qualified coaches that we have in the country, currently only 40%, and I think that's probably actually an overestimation, only 40% of our qualified coaches are actually registered to coach. So 60% of qualified coaches in this country, okay, currently are not actually there ready to coach. Okay, so that's something I'm trying to investigate what the reasons are. I completely understand people get qualifications a few years ago and life moves on, etc. But that's what I'm trying to get from these meetings. So if I haven't already had a meeting with you, expect an email in due course, because I just like to catch up and get your feedback, really. So the common challenges that I've found is, as I mentioned, so coach availability in an area. Okay, some places don't have any coaches. Okay, some places have 1 or 2 coaches that are tied up. Okay, and then other places, there's 7 coaches per club. So it's just trying to get a feel of, where are our coaches within the country. So another challenge was the conversion rate. So as I mentioned earlier, our school taster session is successful. Okay, headed up by Richard Wright last year. Okay, we got into 100 schools, saw over 1,000 pupils or more, and really successful. However, the conversion rate of that participation to the courts was a bit disappointing. Okay, and that's what's positive, is that that's an area of improvement. Okay, and that's where I come in, and that's what I'm hoping to improve on. The final main challenge I found is the method of transportation. Okay, there's no funding at the moment for schools to get transport from school to courts. Okay, so this is a point in which I am focusing on how we can overcome that challenge. So moving forward, okay, I'm going to continue meeting with the coaches. That work's not done. Okay, like I said, if you haven't heard from me, I'll be in touch sooner rather than later, just to keep building. I'm never going to know everything, so I just got to keep building the understanding of where we're at, and that's just going to feed into our strategy moving forward. My approach to this role is not going to be generic. Okay, I am designing tailored action plans depending on the area. All different areas, different regions have different challenges. Some have no coaches, some have no courts, some have all of them. Okay, so figuring out what the challenges are will allow me to apply a tailored approach so that we can overcome said challenges. Okay, so moving forward, okay, is I just hoping that we can start getting some interest, building up. One of my strategies I'll let you in on is that we are targeting schools. Okay, this is how we overcome the lack of transportation. So I'm going to aim at targeting schools to start with that are within proximity of clubs. That's sort of like our strategy. Okay, let's get to the schools that are within, let's say, walking distance of clubs. Okay, because that overcomes that transport challenge. Okay, I've spoken to a couple of you about certain strategies, and when we get onto our individual calls, we can discuss moving forward. So yeah, that's me. I appreciate that's just a lot of blur. So wait for my email and stuff, and watch this space. I'm looking forward to increasing our junior numbers with your help. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Tom. I'm sure you'll all agree a huge amount of work has gone on already to complement what the rest of the team are doing. I think that's something that's been quite staggering, I think, to be honest. When we Dave talked earlier on around the small human resources that we've got at our disposal and the amount of work that actually goes on in the background, I think it's a testament to the team that's there already, and Tom certainly has, and I certainly hope to continue that. Just before I hand over to Greg, just to talk through some of the performance update, I wanted to highlight a couple of bits Tom said there, which I think is really important. We're really going to use that data and insight a lot more. So that's, again, another place where you guys come in, that we need to understand the numbers and the reason why you're behind these decisions, and what that looks like for you. Those tailored action plans are important. Tom and I are working and will work quite closely together. We'll try not to overlap too much, but it's important that we keep chatting and understanding the priorities for either one of us. And then finally, just the exit routes, court capacity, availability of courts, coaches. There are so many contributing factors and things that will influence what we can do, but we really need to try and understand how we can get as many of the next generation into our sport as possible. So I think some of the plans that Tom's got in place and will be putting in place are certainly going to make a good go at that. So thanks again, Tom. Greg, hand over to you.
Hi all. First of all, very good everyone there. So as speaking, you'll have to bear with me. I'm not quite as efficient as the rest of you. It's not my strong point, but I'll give it a go. Okay, so the performance, I'll just give you a little sort of overview of what I do and what the team does. Okay, the junior club squash. Well, this is going to start now with Tom and Simon in sort of place, because I can't do my job without the new kids and the new sort of juniors coming into the sort of program. And obviously we've got a good program which has been very successful, which you can see with the results from the various events we we go to. We've had a big hit with COVID. We work hard with numbers that are relatively small, as Dave mentioned, compared to other countries. So we really work to develop those players, mainly through the next point there, which is the weekly training nights. One big plus for me is we've got a training night up in Wrexham now, which is really starting to take off with the help of Mike of Harris, which has been a positive. But it's the weekly contact we get with the players, which is vital. So that's really the a foundation of our program, is those weekly training nights. The future squads are held all around the country, so we just try to put them where the current junior sections are doing well. So we had a recent one up in Merthyr, and we had another one up in Bangor, which had a lot of players from Holyhead. I'm not quite sure what the club is called, to be honest. Dave might know, but okay. Next one is the national squads. Again, these are more for the players who are going to represent. So they're the bedrock. Again, we do 3 national squads a year. We do one under 11s and under 13s, and of under 15s, and then we do a combined one for the 17s and 19s, and they compete in the 5 nations for the 13s and the 15s. And the older age groups compete in the European team champs, and that's vital preparation for that. The target players are the players who really perform well and have got a lot of potential, and then I give them personal programs and work on a one-to-one basis with those players. And again, we probably do that better than any other home nation. We put a lot of time and effort into those players. They get funded, they go to the events. And just a quick look at the recent British close, which is probably our best benchmark. We had 2 finalists and a 3rd place, which is excellent for a country our size. As you say, some of these clubs in England or regions will have twice as many players as we got as a home nation. Okay, the senior squads is run by Dave. You've just got to look at the current players on the world rankings to see how well that is doing. And the men, I think last time out came 3rd, so reached the semi-final, which was excellent. The competition pathway is just basically our events. What we also do well is we go away to events. So if you looked at social media, I spent last week in the British Junior Open. We do the 2 gold events and quite a few silver events as well. We tend to take coaches. It's a big good role of mine. I find is to work with those coaches. So a few of you on the call, also Jason from Newport there will come along and do some squads, and it's about giving players and coaches the opportunity to progress. And the clubs, again, with Tom and Simon's input, we really want to get on board with that and come and see you as clubs. Sorry guys, a sec. Clara, I will be there now. Okay. Sorry guys, if I come back in 2 secs, my little daughter.
Don't worry, mate. Not a problem. We'll move on, and we can pick up again with Greg when he comes back in. I think, to be fair, I think I was spot on that. Again, there's so much that's going on. There's so much we could talk about in each section, which is something that potentially we can look at. And I'll say this out loud, but I promise I won't certainly throw any colleagues under the bus by saying we're definitely going to do this. But if it feels like, from your point as members, that perhaps this is something we can look at in more detail, if we take each section in a separate evening, perhaps there's something we can do, or we can record more details on performance side or schools and higher ed or club and community. Away from that, we can certainly look at that because it's got to be of value. Again, I can see people panicking and thinking, "Oh, hang on a minute," but that's something we can certainly look at. Greg, no worries at all, mate. It's going really well. Over to you.
If I wrap up, what I'm going to say is our the pathway is good. Okay, it's really good, but that's only going to be as good as the players we get coming into the pathway each year. So it's vital that we have the sort of clubs on board, and we have sort of coaches on board. Junior sections will need coaches, and they go hand in hand. So it's vital that we have these sort of players and these sort of coaches sort of coming through. And the good thing with our pathway now, there's genuinely an opportunity for clubs or coaches to get involved with the performance side. Last week we had a coach from Cardiff Squash Club, from Rubina Squash Club. We've got coaches from all over sort of Wales who are helping to deliver this sort of a program we run. So there's an opportunity for players and sort of coaches to get involved. And the more sort of players and the more sort of coaches we get, the better we are going to be. And as sort of mentioned before, we work with relatively small sort of numbers. So every sort of player and every coach will count and will make us better. It's as simple as that. I'll sort of sign off now, if that's all right.
Oh, great. Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate it, mate. Again, just really quickly, so much going on. If there's something we want to do as a collective here, you want to hear more about it, if there's a different way we can share information, please let us know. I was going to say on to the most important bit of the whole evening, but I would say that that's probably not what everyone's thinking. I've touched on a few bits already on this, but just wanted to share a little bit more detail. And again, my plan is to develop this comprehensive engagement schedule where we will be having these types of high-level evenings once a month, where we'll hear from everyone in the organisation. We'll hear from you as clubs about what's going on as well, and we'll be keeping our finger on the pulse around what some of the hot topics are, and if they need to be discussed, if there's something to do with the political landscape, the energy crisis, for leisure facilities closing, etc., then we can create that forum for those to happen as well. It's important that we understand, for me, why. I ask why a lot, and I think when people ask why, generally there's an instinct or a reaction of perhaps it's judgmental, but I'm just a nosy bugger. I like to know loads that's going on. I like to know why. I like to understand your motivations. I'd like to understand how we can help more, because if I don't understand, then I can't help. Is quite simply. I'm challenging my 3.5-year-old at the moment about who can ask why the most, but he is definitely winning. I'm giving it a good go, but that's really important. So throughout these sessions, throughout our engagements and our conversations, I will ask why an awful lot, and that's not a challenge necessarily. It's just to understand a bit more about your world. We've put in place some funding and grant support. It's a document that I'm developing that we'll share with all clubs, and it's a one-stop shop of all the different places that everyone can go to look for different areas of funding. We'll obviously help with that as well. We can have conversations, but perhaps, listening to Tom's piece earlier around workforce, and perhaps there's some real targeted focus work we can do there to support clubs. If that's what you want to do through those tailored action plans, we can certainly support you with that. I talked about why and listening to understand. It's important. The other thing that's important to me is managing expectations. Dave talked about it already. We've all talked about it. We would love to be able to throw money at everything, work 24 hours a day with, although I think some colleagues definitely do. And I think it's important that everyone understands that we can't do everything, but we will do our absolute best to work with you closely to maximise everyone's resources and to be as effective and efficient as possible to get more people playing safe and enjoyable squash. That is as simple as it is for me. The last thing on my slide, just before I hand over to Russ, is again using that data and insight. It's got to come from you. It's got to come from you as clubs, as members. Is that engagement survey? We've had 7 responses so far, which is great. To be honest, I'm chuffed with that. We're going to leave it open until next Monday. So please do, if you're on the call and you haven't filled it in already, please take the time if you could. It's really take about 5 minutes, or share with someone in the club. We're picking up bits that perhaps not all the information gets out to relevant people in the club. So if you could help us out with that, that would be important. I wanted to just highlight just really quickly a couple of pieces that have come out already. And I know some people joined the call a bit late, so sorry if there's repetition for those that have already heard this, but we're a Pan Wales organisation. That's come out in the survey. We need to look after North Wales, West Wales, Mid Wales, every single area. That is what we will be doing. It will be Wales generic information around best practice in squash clubs, because that squash is squash, but there will be very local conversations around what works best in each region, whether that's in the leagues regions or it's in local authorities. However that works, it will be tailored individually, but we will be taking a Wales first approach in that. We've talked about facilities, which is really important. And I think some of the words that are being used as well, it's interesting for me. I like to understand a bit more, and I'll potentially pick up individually with these conversations around Squash Wales or NGBs. Having worked in 4 others, I can speak generically. We're not dictatorships. We are absolutely organisations that are here to work with you as members and as clubs. And I think there's an opportunity now, building on all the incredible work that the team have done already. They just haven't had the resources and the other hands to be able to help. So hopefully now, with myself and with Tom coming in, we can support the rest of the team, and we can talk to you a lot more and help understand what difference we can make. There's an awful lot more that's coming out. There's a lot in the pipeline. I'm going to try and manage my own expectations as well as everyone else's. But again, I'm sure, like the rest of the colleagues on here, any questions, please do just get in touch. Drop it in the chat box now, get in touch afterwards, and we'll take things from there. I'll hand over to Russell now, who will talk through the membership offer.
Thank you, Simon. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time. It's great that you could be here with us on this gloomy Tuesday. But I just wanted to talk to you tonight about why be a member of Squash Wales. Now, most of you in this meeting, or all of you, will be Squash Wales members. You all know being a member of Squash Wales allows you to play league squash, and the big thing with that is the peace of mind that you get public liability and personal accident cover, but it also gives you much more benefits. And I just wanted to quickly, briefly talk to you about that tonight. So we provide information, advice, squash news, surveys, reports, especially with Simon and Tom coming into their roles now. We'll have a lot more data and stats that we can share with you. We're with Simon, we're going to plan to do a regular newsletter that will contain a lot of that information in there. It gives you access to an extensive national competition program. As you know, the Welsh Masters closed and the Welsh Junior closed is at the end of this month, or I hope you know that. But it also gives you the option to sign up to the reward scheme. Now, the reward scheme saves you hundreds of pounds on groceries and items for your houses. It's £5, and there's some massive brands on there, Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, just to name a few, but they can offer up to 5% discount on your shopping. And if you do the math, if you spend, minimum £100 a week on your weekly shop, take 5% off that, you're paying £5 for that reward scheme. It pays for itself after 1 or 2 shops. So I just wanted to briefly say that. It also gives you basic membership to squash levels, and I know that's very popular with some of the players out there. So when you're talking to your players in your clubs about Squash Wales and why they should join, there's just a couple of things straight away that I think is simple to get them started talking about it. Just sharing a few of those things. A few of those things would help. I personally use it for my weekly food shop, and like I said, it pays for itself. How do you access the membership? Well, just go to your Squash Wales Just Go profile. Via that, go to the member area, go to the rewards, and then you access the rewards portal. And there's loads on there. I know a lot of you use the Caracal discount as well, and Squash Skills and Decathlon Sports Direct. There's loads on there. It really is worth it. And I hope you didn't find that too salesy. That's just the honest, the honest feel. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Russ. I mean, I didn't find it too salesy. I haven't used it yet at all. I definitely will be, I think, to be honest. Again, just to pick away for me, we just got to tell more people about what we can offer and the benefits of it. I know everyone's involved, and again, the experience with other sports and that feeling perhaps, and please, people shoot me down if this is wrong, but essentially we're just selling a membership to get insurance to play the thing and do the thing that we like. That's absolutely not the case, and Russ and the team have done an incredible work with the Just Go system in the background, and the benefits offers and the rewards that they're in place. So you guys on the call may already know about it. Brilliant if so. There's a couple of questions about it in the survey, but if you could share that with your club members as well, and those that you play with, we'd really appreciate it.
Simon.
So Tom,
am I right to just say chip in something on the memberships?
Yeah, of course.
So just the reason why we're explaining what you get as a membership is Squash Wales, the more members we get, the more memberships that we get as an organization, that leads to our funding. So the more memberships that we get, the more chance, higher funding we'll get, and then that'll go into your clubs. So it's within your interest to get as many of your club members of Squash Wales, because then that will increase the funding, which will then get put back into the clubs. So while we're seeing Russell trying to sales pitch Squash Wales membership, it's actually the idea is it's going to benefit everyone within the organization. So that was just my point. Sorry.
Thanks, Tom. That's great. No, it's a very complex thing, and I think Alex just picked up your question there. I'll take that away and come back to you and give you a more comprehensive answer. But unless colleagues have got one they can pop in the chat box now. But what we want to try and do is make sure that every offer that is there is relevant, and it works, and it suits every player or person that might be in and around the sport. That's something that is always tricky for governing bodies to try and get in place. But we've got a number of different user groups out there: students, coaches, officials, various people, and there isn't necessarily a one size fits all for membership. So that's absolutely something that we're looking to do. So, as I say, that is it for now. I just want to cover a couple of things just to summarise. Firstly, massive thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Big thank you to colleagues as well for providing the content, working through, giving up your evenings as well to join us and share this information. It's a statement of intent, I think, from the organisation. That this is what we're keen to do now and offer clubs and members moving forward. Please do, only because I love a bit of data and insight and I love a survey, please do share it with your clubs, input on behalf. We'll send it out again. It'll be out on social media again tomorrow. The closing date is 16th of January. To be honest, it'll be 8 AM on Tuesday morning, the 17th, when I start work. So you've got overnight on Monday is fine. And what the most important thing for us is that we'll be playing those results back to you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So whatever you're feeling, thinking, you put it in there, because we will be putting it down. I am absolutely not saying right now that we will, as an organisation or as individual leads, be actioning everything that's in there. That's not feasible. It's not realistic. But we will be putting a realistic action plan together and playing back a lot of that feedback that you've taken the time to share with us. That is going to happen. And that will influence then, moving forward, these types of sessions, whatever sessions that we may need to put in between, look at that engagement schedule, as well as anything else that keeps coming up and means we need to look at as an organisation to help you playing more squash safely. That's it from me. Alex, I've got your question in there. I'll come back to you properly and answer that one to you. Next session is the 14th of February. I haven't told colleagues that yet, so apologies. I hope everyone can make it. That said, there may well be times when these dates change slightly, but we will be sharing this as well on our YouTube page once we're done. So please do, again, we'll put it on social media. We'll share the link via email in a wrap up to everybody. So please do share it with your clubs. If there's any more questions, I've just seen one pop up with me. Absolutely. I'm a purist in life, Damien, and I'm a romantic when it comes to sport. So Valentine's for me was definitely the only way that we could go forward with this. So thanks so much. Really appreciate everyone's time, and we will look forward and speak to you soon. Thanks all.
Nice one, Simon.